It's also kind of a reminder to get it started. As we're doing this though, just kind of some reminders. You guys are doing a great job of just muting yourselves when you come in. So that'll kind of help with some of the things there. But please feel free to use the chat feature here in Zoom. We'll be looking at that. And then also the chat feature on Whova under that area in the agenda. So I'll be looking at both of those, and we can use those questions to ask her at the end. So we're going to leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end of the session. Okay, so we'll field some of those questions in chat. If you have any issues with Zoom or anything like that, ask those there also. Okay. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Jenna Waite for her presentation, and we're just looking forward to what tips and tricks she has for us today. So welcome, Jenna.
Thanks, Jessica. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to see you all here. So I don't know if you guys noticed, some of you came in a little bit later, but in the bottom left of the screen there, if you guys could go ahead and draw a picture of something nature related that resonates with you. It could be an animal, a plant, whatever you think. It could be a special place of yours. If you guys want to go ahead and draw that picture, I'll try to talk a little bit, and then we'll kind of jump back to that. So give you some time to draw something. And don't worry, it doesn't have to be like super fancy. It could be just like stick figures and little stick trees. But we'll go around later and talk about each one of your drawings. So to get started, I'll go ahead and show you my drawing because it's the way it's set up on my screen here. So I drew a squirrel, and a squirrel resonates with me because I'm kind of like a squirrel. So, oh look, a squirrel. So I get distracted very easily. I also really like snacks. And with winter coming up, I like to have a nice warm place to be when it's cold outside. You can see my little squirrel has a little nut he's eating there. So that's just kind of an open activity. Do any of you guys have your picture drawn already? You can see you all.
I can share mine.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
Okay, so I'm not a great artist, everyone. I got two drawings for you to share. One that I feel very passionate about, that I resonate well with, and that's me as a mermaid. And then the other one is just of a fish, because I like tropical, warm water, salt water. I feel home at the beach.
Love it. Are we getting messages? Anybody else have a drawing they want to share right now? All right, I can come back to that once you guys have drawn your drawings. All right, so at the SWCD, we like to be the resource for people. So we don't want to be doing things that other people are doing. We want to have things that teachers and other community members that they can actually use. If you notice here in this picture, that is one of my educational kits that I build, which I will get to those later and I'll show you how you can find those. But I put this quote of Aldo Leopold up, and it says, "The objective is to teach the student to see the land, to understand what they see, and to enjoy what they understand." And I took this to mean that you're creating a connection between people and the resources and the land that they are using, which is very important, and it drives passion, and it helps people to understand better when they have a connection to something. So if we're learning about something boring, we're really not going to care. But if we can create that passion and that understanding and connection, it really makes a difference in teaching. So I'm basically just going to go through and show you guys what we have to offer at the SWCD. We have everything up on our website. And so I'm just going to walk you guys through it, and hopefully you guys can get something out of that. And the nice thing is everything on our website is free for anybody to use. This picture here was a group of homeschool boys, and we did a series of soil lessons once a week for a couple of weeks, and they seemed to really enjoy that. So hopefully you all can see the screen. Can someone tell me if you cannot? Good, okay. All right, so this is our home screen. It's just elkhart.swcd.org. And if you go under, we've got our education tab here. And if you just click on it, it'll direct you to basically the education homepage. And so we kind of have it divided up into 3 different categories. We've got our classroom programs where we can actually go into the schools and teach things. And then we have our Indiana Master Naturalist, which is the adult class that we teach every year. That's through the DNR. We're one of the hosts for that. And then we have our conservation library. So I'm going to start with our classroom programs. And these are completely adaptable to whatever situation a teacher may need. I love it when people come to me and we personalize what we do for people. So we have our Augmented Reality Sandbox, which I'll show you guys a video of me actually teaching a lesson with a couple of kids on our ARS. But basically it's a sandbox, and it has a projector that projects on the sand. And when the sand moves, the picture is a topographic map, and it changes with the sand as the kids are playing in it. So we talk about watersheds, erosion, topography, geography, all those good stuff. Our water resources. So this one is highly adaptable, whether it's kindergartners or it's high schoolers. But just talking about stormwater management, where our water goes, watersheds, things like that. And then we've got our infiltration and our runoff. So that was the infiltration cart that you guys saw in the presentation slide. And that again talks about erosion and runoff and stormwater and how things like native plants and farming practices affect infiltration. This next one, this worms and soil health, that's probably my favorite to teach, mostly because we get to play with worms, and a lot of kids are either really into it or they're like, oh, worms, and then by the end they absolutely love it. Basically we use worms to teach about soils, and it's pretty great. And then soil profiles, then we've got our seed flings where we talk about native plants, and then any other ideas people may have. We try to be very adaptable to whatever they need. So if we go back here, okay, so that was kind of our classroom programs. That's what we can do in the classroom. Honestly, we're pretty flexible. We can do whatever people want. And then I'll briefly go over Indiana Master Naturalist here. If you guys don't know what Indiana Master Naturalists are, it's basically a group of people who've gone through a series of classes, and then they have to do 24 hours of volunteer service, and then they become an official Indiana Master Naturalist alumni. And it's basically just to get adults connected with nature and to give a broad overview of all things natural resource related. I just hosted my first class, and it was super fun. We bring in different speakers, and each of those speakers talks about a certain topic, whether it's animals, plants, soils, water, and then eventually at the end there's a short test that is pretty easy that they take, and then they do their volunteer service, and then they get certified. And then there's an alumni group that meets up. So the next thing I want to show you, this is really what I want to highlight for you guys, is our conservation library. And it is exactly like it sounds. It's a bunch of resources all in one place for you guys. So we kind of break it down into 3 groups. We've got our PowerPoints, our videos, and our lesson plans. So the PowerPoints, I'm not going to open them because they take a long time to load up, but we've got the history of soil and water conservation districts, different water resources, stormwater 101, and then soils, which eventually we hope to add more presentations. But essentially, these are free PowerPoints for anybody to use. You click on them, you download them, and then it's just a pre-made PowerPoint. It's got comments in it for background information, and anybody can use these in classrooms, whether they're doing events. It's free for anybody to use. And it's also a good starting point if you just need a background. You're welcome to browse through them yourself. And then I'll jump to the lesson plans. So before me and before the person before me, Nancy Brown, who is the educator in our office, she put together all these wonderful educational kits, whereas essentially it was a folder and it had all the things to do a lesson in it. And so I kind of expanded on that idea, and I created these educational kits where it's a box and it has everything to do a little more of a in-depth lesson plan where it's got all the things you need. So I'm going to open one of these. I did not pre-choose which one I was going to open up. So we'll open up the Wonderful World of Worms, since that's my favorite. So they're all structured the same. And the reason I did that is just to keep them consistent. And that way, if someone's looking at it, it's like a curriculum book. You know exactly what you're looking for. So there's a very short overview. So in this lesson, we would, students will learn about soil and how worms are good for the soil. And then some of them do have a grade level, but most of them are can be adapted to anywhere from K to 12. And sometimes even adults. I'll use these kits in my adult programs as well. And then we go through a background. And this, I think, is really important, the way I have this structured. So instead of having just a lecture where people are listening to me and the kids are, picking their boogers in the background because they're bored out of their minds, I try to engage them by asking questions. So instead of just giving them the information, I engage them by asking them the questions and getting them to relate it to themselves, which then, of course, then piques their interest. So I go through, ask these different questions, and then eventually, in this lesson in particular, it leads up to the activity. And so then once you get through your background, there's a list of supplies, and everything should be in the kit that you need. Sometimes there's extra things like, like calculator or a ruler. Those things you should have around home. If not, we can always provide those ahead of time if we needed to. So then once the supplies, then there's the instructions. So in this one, once again, I'm asking the kids these questions and asking them to give me answers, or, just kind of see what they see and hear what they hear. And then eventually they do get to touch the worms. So it's hands-on, which is really important to me as someone who learns by doing things or by looking at things. If you're just telling me stuff, I'm probably not going to remember it. But if I write it down, or if I see it, or if I actually do it myself, I remember it a lot better. And so I try to touch on all of those learning styles in these lessons, whether it's reading, seeing, listening to things, and then doing them themselves. And then some of them have extra activities that you can do, or worksheets that go along with it. So this one has an extra lesson that the kids can do research and do different experiments. I'll open up another one here so you guys can kind of see. We'll do particle size. All right, so this one is demonstrating particle size. So you go through your overview, the background information, and then it gives a list of supplies, and it says what's included and what's not included. And then it goes down to the directions. And with that, there's the student worksheet. And so those who are looking for a way to give kids a grade, if it's in the classroom, This would be a way to do that, would be to have them fill out these worksheets. Obviously, I'm not going to give them a grade except good job, you guys participated. That's more for a teacher rather than myself. But when they do these worksheets, like on this one, it's helping them to understand and actually walk through the process of calculating soil texture. So each of those lessons are online. You guys are welcome to use those and print them off, whatever. But then we also have kits that we do lend out into our county, which we can lend them out outside the county too. We're pretty flexible in that. Oops. All right, so then since COVID happened, I'm sure you guys are aware, everything has changed, and now we're trying to figure out how to be in the classroom without actually being in the classroom. And so when I was sitting at home working, I started creating some videos. And they weren't the greatest when I started. It was pretty rough. It was definitely a learning curve. But eventually I have started to get a lot better, and I can put a video together in like a couple of hours, no problem. And I've started to build up my my video collection. So just anytime I'm anywhere, I always take videos so that I have this big library to choose from when I'm doing a lesson. Sorry guys, I gotta plug my computer in. So I'll show you one of these videos. Soil slump. So they're just on YouTube. So you guys are welcome. Check out our YouTube channel. There's all sorts of different videos. And I keep trying to post more. So keep an eye out for those. But here's just an example of one of my videos. And did you guys all hear the music? Can someone give me a thumbs up? Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna make that full screen so you guys can watch.
Hello, in this video, we'll learn how to conduct a slump test and what that means for soil health. What does a slump test show? A slump test shows the soil's ability to absorb and hold water and how well a saturated soil holds together. It shows soil structure and resiliency through water absorption. It can also show how soil would hold up under a heavy rain event. The hypothesis is that the management of soil affects the aggregate stability of the soil. A stable soil is better able to hold together and hold water compared to soils that are not stable. There are three properties that are important to soil health: absorption, clumping, and capacity. In a large rain event, fast absorption of water can prevent flooding, which can be detrimental to the surrounding land. Soil that clumps together when it is wet reduces the amount of soil particles that can be washed away during a rain event. In other words, erosion. The more water that the soil can hold on to after being saturated means less water can be washed away as sheet flow. I have a soil slump demonstration set up here. I have 2 small glass jars filled with 3/4 of the way of water, 2 sink strainers with a soil sample in each, 1 healthy and 1 unhealthy, and 2 paper plates. To do the demonstration, I place the sink strainers in the jars of water at the same time. I observe how fast each sample absorbs the water. The sample on the right absorbs the water fairly fast, which would indicate healthy soil. But the sample on the left absorbs the water pretty slow, which indicates an unhealthy soil. Once the water is fully taken up by the soil, I take the sink strainers and flip them upside down on a plate. The sample on the right stuck together in large aggregates and looks like a brownie texture. This is what healthy soil should look like. The sample on the left stuck together, but it looks like pudding because the microaggregates. This is what an unhealthy soil looks like. I tip each plate slightly and look at the water it leaves behind as it slides across the plate. The sample on the right has absorbed the water and held onto it, which indicates a healthy soil. But the sample on the left has released a slimy residue, which is the soil and water mixed together. This indicates an unhealthy soil. Overall, I would say that the sample on the right is the healthy soil, and the sample on the left is the unhealthy soil. That's it for this demonstration. Thanks for watching.
All right, so that was just one example of my videos. That was one of the first ones that I did. So I was recording that with my phone, but luckily I was able to get some new camera equipment, and we're gonna be doing a lot more videos and making them a little better and a little clearer quality. So another video that I wanted to show you guys is it's basically a sample lesson that I did with my friend's kids. I do know them personally, so it was a little hard to teach them, which you guys might notice in the video. But I put comments on it, how I'm going about my lessons and what I'm trying to think about as I'm teaching kids. So hopefully this will pull up fast for us. It's thinking. And please let me know if you can't hear it or see it.
In the middle of the sandbox.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how high we can get our mountain. Do either of you guys know what a topographic line is?
No.
No? Well, if you guys look on the sandbox, do you see the lines?
Yes.
Okay, do you see how they kind of go around our mountain?
Yeah.
So those are known as topographic lines. Do you know what those show? They show elevation. So the closer, so each line represents a different height.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so this line right here is going to be higher than this line right here. And the closer the lines are together, so like if you, here, stick your hands out for a second, put them on the edge. See how these lines are super close together?
Yeah.
But then look over here or over there. See how the lines are a lot farther apart?
Can I take my shoes off?
In a little bit. So the closer the lines are, the steeper the slope. So the lines are super close together, your hill's gonna be like this. But if they're far apart, your hill is gonna be a little flatter. So,
Oh my gosh.
is our mountain a steep slope or a gradual slope?
Look. Steve.
It's super steep because they're really close together, you're right. All right, now hands out. If it rains on our mountain, do you think it will go up or down?
Down.
Down, you think? Let's try. Is it going up or down?
Down.
Down, that's right. Water runs downhill. All right. And do you think that water is moving really fast or really slow?
Fast.
Fast?
So.
All right. Are you guys ready for a big rainstorm?
Down.
All right. I want you to watch how fast it goes down the hill, okay?
Can I do the magic?
Good job. Now, did it run away fast or slow?
I didn't see it.
Should we try it again?
Fast.
Fast. Okay. Now let's try something different. Very carefully, while keeping the sand in the box, I want you guys to flatten out the mountain. Now, if it rains. All right, put your hands on the edge.
Did I do the magic?
Yep.
Me too!
All right, watch what happens. Is it gonna go fast or slow? Fast, you think? All right, let's try.
Huge rainstorm. Oh my gosh.
Is it going away really fast?
No.
No, not really. Now watch what happens when it rains. Watch your fingers.
Oh my.
What's happening?
It's on our fingers.
It's on your fingers. So if you look, especially at mine, see how the water gets caught? So if you can imagine our fingers being plants on our mountain, it's helping to slow the water down so that it's not racing down the hill and flooding out down here. And it also helps to prevent erosion. And erosion is the movement of soil.
Fail.
So if you take your hand out, take your plants out, the water then goes away.
Like this.
Now,
Like this.
I want each of you to find a place to build your home. I want to be really close to the river, so I'm going to build my house right here.
I'm building my house right here. I'm actually gonna build my house right here.
Okay, all right, now remember where your house is. All right, now put your hands on the side. Now watch what happens when there's a big rainstorm.
Listen. My house.
My house is underwater.
My house is not. My house isn't.
Yeah, you're pretty close to the water edge though.
Yeah. My house.
So
I should have built mine up here.
that's what we call a flood
Mine
plain.
is not. Mine is not.
Yeah. So every so often we have a big flood. Do you guys remember having a flood?
No. No.
No, you don't remember driving around and seeing water go across the road?
No.
So every once in a while we'll get a lot of water at once and then it'll flood certain areas. So if you built your house in the floodplain, chances are it's probably going to have water in its basement eventually. So that's why it's important to build your house up off of the water. That way when it storms, all that stuff doesn't go into the river when it gets washed away from your house. Thanks for watching.
So one of the things I want to point about that was, I fast forwarded some of those points in there, and it was really interesting to see the girls very involved, and they were thinking about like, how have I seen this in real life? And they pointed out, oh, we just went to Turkey Run, and this looks like Turkey Run when I had to go straight up the hill because mommy got lost in the woods. And so those connections really helped them to learn the lesson that I was teaching. Connection is very important. So if I can do it, so can you. So I'm just gonna go through these steps that I go through every time I come up with an idea, and how I create an effective learning resource. So step number 1 is to get an idea. You can't create something unless you have some inspiration. And don't be afraid to create something that no one's ever done before. That's usually the things that people really enjoy in the long run. It might be hard to get there sometimes, but it's definitely worth it. Next, you want to share your idea with someone else. So in my office, I have 2 coworkers who I can go to and I say, I have an idea. And usually the response is, uh-oh. But usually they're very supportive and they'll either tell me it's a good idea or it's a terrible idea. And don't be afraid to get shot down, because sometimes you might have a great idea, but the way you want to go about it may not be necessarily the right way to do it. And those people can help you talk about things at a different angle. The next is to write it down. This is what I like to call word vomit, where essentially I just write all my thoughts down. And usually I do it on a computer, or else I'd use a lot of eraser if I didn't. but not just writing it down in words, but also drawing pictures. Like I said, I am a very visual person, and so when I can't express things in words, I will try to write them in draw them in a picture. The next thing is to make an outline. So this is kind of an important step, and it goes through all the things that you kind of need to have in place in order to implement your idea. So the first one that you need to have is a mission statement. Like, what is the point of your idea? And then the next one is your specific vision or your goals for this resource. And then the next one is, oh, sorry, I skipped one. To write down your resources. So whether it's people, it's places, whether it's the supplies that you need to do this. I will say one of the most valuable resources you can have is probably people and connections to people who do things that you don't do. And they can help you obtain the things that you might need when you're trying to create something. The next is a budget. So money is always an issue, right? If you have to buy things instead of just creating things. So that also comes into play with having people that might be able to fund it for you. And then a time frame of when you kind of want to map out your, or to have your resource completed by, kind of helps you to organize when you need to do certain things. And then also measuring your success. So once you've created this, you need a way to kind of figure out, were you successful? Were you not? Is this something you want to do again? Whether it's an event or it's like my educational kits. Did the kids use it? Did they like it? Next, make a to-do list. So this kind of goes with your time frame and what exactly you need to do to achieve your goal. And then evaluate yourself. And ask people, people who have used your resource, see if they think it's great or if they have some suggestions. Like if you're not a classroom teacher and you're trying to implement something in a classroom, have a teacher try it out and have them make those small tweaks that might need to be able to use it in a classroom better. And do it again. You don't have to stop with just one resource, keep going. So it could be complicated. So your ideas could be these huge ideas and, they could take several years to implement. So this here is a nature craft that I built. And as you can see, it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to do it. But you can make things that are super simple. So these pictures are my Indiana Master Naturalist class. I told them to go out and pick things from the nature, whether it's sticks, it's wood or leaves, flowers, whatever they wanted, and then bring it to our next class. And then we did a nature craft. So yeah, my nice little log cabin took hours upon hours to complete, but these guys did this in like 15, 20 minutes. And it's all stuff that they picked out of their yard. So things can be complicated or they can be super simple. It just depends on your needs and how much effort you're willing to put into it. And resources, like I said, are super important. We've got Rachel Woodworth on here. She's with the DNR. And I recently have attended her workshops. And these are the ones that I have attended. And they are super helpful. I really appreciate the workshops and these books because they're just inspiration in and of themselves. So I might take one of these resources and use one of their lessons in there and go beyond just what's in there. I might take it a step further and actually like create some fancy display or build upon it and actually use real life things rather than like cutting them out of a piece of paper. So they're great, and I highly suggest if you guys are into environmental education and you're looking for resources, I'm sure several of you have already heard of these Project Wet, Project Wild. If you haven't, definitely let me know and I can connect you with Rachel, or she can comment her contact information. And that's all I got. Do you guys have questions or do you want to see more things? And that's my email. I put it in the chat box so I can stop sharing my screen here.
Yeah, Jenna, I'm not currently seeing any questions in the chat on Whova or here, but this also may be a great time for some of you guys to now show your smiling faces, show off some of those drawings from the beginning too. But yeah, I really just enjoyed listening to Jenna and just seeing some of those resources. Looking forward to checking out that website, but also just great job on putting those videos together and just giving us some great examples of working with younger kids and how to adapt to those distractions, but also teachable moments with them. So go ahead, and if you have a question, since there's not a ton of you guys on here, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask it to the group.
Ooh, an imaginary drawing. Let's see that.
No, I imagined drawing.
Oh, what did you imagine draw?
A nice maple tree.
Ooh. And why did you choose a maple tree?
Multiple uses. Treehouse, obviously sugar maple, because then you get maple syrup too.
Awesome. So the reason I had you guys do the drawing is to make a connection, and that's what I talked about in my presentation, is just being able to draw those connections from what you are learning to real life, and it helps to build onto the things that they're learning. Anybody else have a drawing they want to show off?
I don't have a drawing, but I have a question. Or I do have a drawing if you want to see that again.
What's your question?
For that augmented reality sandbox, is that something that can be transported into the classroom, or is it only at your center?
Nope, we can take that anywhere. We take it out of county sometimes, so it's usually down at the state fair. We also do the county fair. We'll have other local counties that will use it as well, other SWCDs.
So is it like a projector that you put on top of it, or how do you?
Yeah, so if you guys actually want information, if you want to shoot me an email, you can build it yourself. So it was through a university, and I can't remember off the top of my head which one, but they actually created it, and there's a software you have to use, and then that's what actually makes it go is the software. But it's a little bit complicated, but I think other people can do it if they got someone who knows a little bit of tech stuff. And it involves a little bit of code, which I'm not the greatest at. I'd be that person to put an extra space and then get something completely different. But yes, it is something that we transport, and people love it and they request it all the time, whether they want to just play with it themselves or they want us to come in and teach a lesson.
Yeah, and I know down at Grace College at the Lilly Center for Lakes and Streams, they also have 2 of them.
Yes, we do.
Them down there. So there's some scattered around where you can pick some breaks to do the augmented reality.
Yep, and theirs is cool. They got little figurines you can put in it and mess with them. What other questions do you guys have? I put my email and then also our website in the chat box if you guys wanted that. And all those things I showed you are all on the website. So help yourself. Hopefully you guys found some good resources.
Aside from your videos, have you been doing quite a bit of virtual programming?
Not really. I've mostly been trying to build on the programs that I have, that in the hopes that eventually we're going to be in the classroom more. I've put out some feelers, but I haven't really got much feedback as to like virtual, like all of our stuff comes in a kit and we can take it to the school and then we can teach virtually if we had to. But I haven't had anybody bite on that yet, but they could just not know about it.
And for Jenna or anyone else on here, what is, like, when we look at kits, and kits seem to be very important to camps and other places of things you can take on the road, or all your supplies and your, you know, curriculum are all put in one area and you can just pick up a box and go. So what is one that you would still like to build? Or for some of the rest of you guys on here, what are some kits that you have that are popular, are your favorites, or ones that you're looking for resources for?
My worm one is definitely my favorite. I've actually, instead of buying them every time I do the program, I started a worm bin, and so I can actually keep them alive, rather than just, you know, tossing them out once they're all dead, because they don't always survive the school programs. But one of the kits that I recently came across, which apparently we had somewhere in the depths of our attic, was a water history. And I really want to bring that one back to life and actually do a video on it. So we'll see where that one goes. I'm pretty excited. I want to like dress people up, and we'll see how it goes. I need volunteers though.
All right, Christine Miller asked in the chat, is there a kit on composting? So I think that could be for the rest of you too. For you, Jenna, first, do you have resources on composting?
Not necessarily composting, but I do a build a worm bin, which would be vermicomposting. But that's another video that I do want to do. I've got some ideas on that. I've got these rain barrels that we have a couple extra that I want to cut up and turn them into a composting bin. But no, that's a really good idea, Christine.
Anyone else here have just some classes that they love sharing, or just some of those kits that you have built and take on the road? I know, like Darcy, I know with Soil and Water has the like watersheds kits put together, just because I know I used one of those the one day when they're like, hey, can you teach this class? It's like, yeah, you got a kit. She's like, yep, right here in the back of the van. So.
I will say the kits are pretty convenient.
Good question. So Autumn's asking, she goes, hey, I loved all of this. If someone's going to rent your kits, do you have sanitation protocols for them? I have a few kits, but they have a lot of stuffed animals, dress up, and hands-on activities. So that's a great question, especially in the age of COVID. And I know in the conference kind of community chats right now, I know there's one chat going on of just doing program in the time of COVID. So yeah, for kit things, how do we clean them up when they're done, or do we have protocols for that?
For us personally, we don't have a lot of stuffed animals, so I don't necessarily have that specific issue, but I mean, we just, one, space out between the kits. We haven't really had anybody check them out since COVID happened. I've done one programming and that was it. So, you know, cross-contamination wasn't necessarily an issue there. But lots of hand sanitizer available. Rachel always has some great smelling hand sanitizer at her her events. But then just wiping everything down. But like I said, most of our stuff is hard surface. The one thing I have had to change, like when I was doing my IMIN class, so I did soil texture, and we did texture by feel. So it usually incorporates people taking a handful of soil, but instead I had one person handling the spray bottle, one person handling the scoop, and then that way everybody's not touching everybody. And then that person obviously is going to be sanitized before they touch anything, and then after they're done, things are sanitized as well.
Yep. Yeah, there is a chat on the community board on Whova going for COVID-19 solutions. And so I know Sarah Wolf had commented on this early, talking about a Facebook group called Women in Parks and Recreation, of where they have brainstormed a lot of ideas about COVID solutions and just how to run things. So that is a great resource to check out for some of those cleaning and sanitation questions. I think Paul comes on every time it gets silent. He just knows. So right now, if you have, once again, if you have any other questions, put them in chat in either one of those locations. But since this is the first session, what are just some of those things that you're looking forward to getting out of this conference this weekend?
Virtually seeing people.
Was that people turn on their video?
No, no, I mean, just seeing your names, I know, like, okay, you're on the other line, I feel you. But it is great, Jessica, to see your face.
Oh, look, more faces.
I'd like to get an idea of, this is Lisa from Bloomington, of how many people are actually going into the schools, because I have not been invited yet back in the schools due to COVID. So I'm focusing on more business things, but I was just curious.
I haven't been invited into schools, but we've definitely had an increase of virtual. Can we do chats with the biologists? So I've been working on some video programming to share with schools.
And I've had a couple of IU virtual programs, but and have been working on creating some videos, but no K through 12.
Yeah, this is Jessica. I have not I don't really go into schools, but they come here. But I have not worked with any public schools this fall because most of them have no field trips. But the local Christian schools, some of them have come down here earlier this fall to do programming in here. And I've been working primarily with homeschool groups right now. So them coming here to camp, but I've also went down with the Lilly Center and did a fishing day the one day. So I was with Lilly Center, but it was the same homeschool group. So doing this outdoor program with homeschool and Christian schools, but not public schools.
Homeschoolers are always looking for stuff to do too.
Did the Christian schools wear masks when they came?
Yes, they did. The Christian schools did a really good job of that. The homeschoolers, we have a little more issue with that, but we do, like here at Camp Mac, we do require masks when you're indoors. We really want them to do it when they're, less than 6 feet from others, but as teachers, we stay back from them at least 6 feet and keep them outside. So yeah, trying to work with the groups and different rules on that. And Christine Miller also has a great question in the chat of just ideas on where to start when creating new things to do with kids and nature. So where do you guys get your ideas in this vast world? Because we've all started someplace. And when you start, I talked to Christine a little bit last night. When you start, it can be a little overwhelming. Rachel's like, yes, growing up wild. I totally agree with that. Getting little feet wet, I want to see that one someday. I know when the first one I ever did was a Hoosier River Watch class with Darcy Zolman and Lynn Crichton. And those are still two people I interact with quite a bit. So I kind of credit them with getting my start and getting my feet wet in some of this. But for the rest of you guys, where do you get some of your ideas?
I will say conferences like this, like I'm a person who, if I hear something, like I get that idea and I run with it, usually a little too fast. But that conferences like this, once again, the Project Wet, Project Wild, those are definitely good places to start. And the nice thing about those is they do have the lessons, and if you need worksheets, they're already online for you, which Rachel can talk more about those since she teaches them.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Project Wet, Project Wild, they are water conservation and wildlife focused. They are nationally and internationally recognized award-winning environmental education curriculum. So it has hands-on activities meant to teach students about nature. And if you physically can't get the kids outside for whatever reason, time, supervision, bad weather, it's meant to bring in those natural elements indoors. And it's great for both formal educators and informal. And it's awesome. It's around in every state. Every state has a state coordinator, and I'm our state coordinator here in Indiana. So I provide professional development workshops for teachers and educators. For teachers, they get their continuing education hours. and Darcy's on here and a few other people, but those are some facilitators. So it's not just me offering these workshops across the state. I have awesome volunteer facilitators to help lead them. I threw my email in the chat box, so shoot me an email if you want to learn more. I'm happy to get in touch with you.
Here's my idea in creating programs. I do a lot of my research, and if I have an idea in mind, when I first created a lot of my programs, I would go to the children's library, the public library, sit in the children's library and see what books remain on the table that have been pulled out. And I had this library angel is wonderful that works with me, because I have had the most incredible books that don't necessarily deal with the environment, but really put the point across of what I'm trying to get in my message. And that has been the most wonderful way for me of creating programs.
Thanks, Elisa. Yeah, I'll agree on that. Just looking at library books as far as what's left out, I've got a lot of field guides there. I appreciate Troy's comment in the chat feature of suggesting for the K-12 schools, look at classes and subjects that you might not normally connect to. He teaches global politics, government, and geography, and sponsors Model UN. Always looking to expand the knowledge base so students understand and connect the written or video to the natural and real world. So I'm glad Troy shared that. I sat in one of his sessions last year, and I remember he had lots of different resources sitting out that I still have. So I know here at Camp Mac, like Kristen, one of the ones she came up with, since there's, Conservationist County has tons of lakes and lots of really great program. So it's like, how do we use the lake we have here, but not do something that's competing with those around us? And so she came up with a pirate studies class. And so some of it's physics and things like that too, of what makes a boat float or whatever. So we're still using the water in our area, but not doing something a little bit different than what they're going to get from everybody else. So anyone else have ideas of just classes you like to teach, or resources that you're looking for, or places that you go to look for resources? All right, well, if there's no other questions, I just want to thank Jenna for just sharing with us a vast variety of resources, just a place to get started. Great job just on the website and your YouTube channel and the things that you're sharing there. Those videos, that's definitely a way that we are finding a way to connect with the people around us who are looking for virtual resources. So whether it's in our public schools, homeschool families, there's a lot of different places to do it. Troy also shared Climate Change and Questions of Justice is a good unit from Choices at Brown University, but it says it needs some local connections and some hands-on experience. So I just really appreciate all of you guys for sharing there. So please, just kind of reminder that at the end of different sessions to fill out session evaluations, you do get participation points for that on the Whova app for the leaderboard. So there's different ways to get ahead on that leaderboard, and we do have some contests going, photos and stuff like that. So you contests and a photo caption contest right there. So please get on the Whova app, get on the Whova website and play around with that, see what all is there. Next sessions start at 3 o'clock or 3:30, sorry. Some of the options you have are Getting Comfortable with Risky Play with Carla Gall, Habitat Projects in Educational Settings with Vincent, Just Answer the Question, How to Write Winning Proposals with Allison, Artistic Biotechnology and Non-Formal Learning Environments with Krista and Rachel then. So once again, if you have any issues getting attached to those Zoom calls or anything, just let us know and we'll do all that we can to help you. So we thank you for joining us on this first session, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the weekend and look forward to connecting with you all. So thank you, Jenna, for your
everyone.
Jessica, does that Does that automatically give us a link to the survey?
I think, ooh, I should add.
I think if you go to the page for it, it was, I think it was right below like where the video should be.
I was like, let me look.
Okay, but it's only on the app, not on the lap or the web version.
I think it was on the.
I know, I'm trying to see if it's under rate session. Should play with this a little more. Yes, so there is underneath in the agenda, when you click on the session, there's an optional say rate session. And so you can go in there and it'll ask you, it'll have the title of the session, and then it'll ask you some questions about the topics. And it does have an answer box too for fill in the blank at the bottom. So great question on that. So the word we're looking for is rate session versus like looking for evaluation. So that is
Okay, thanks.
No, thank you for asking that. Any other questions before we go today? All right, well, thanks for joining us here, and we look forward to seeing you at 3:30 in one of those 4 choices. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.